Okay, so we're going to start with introductions to our very small but exceptional staff team. My name is Sarah French, and I am the Artists and Venues Services Coordinator.
Hello, I'm Megan. I also work in Artists and Venue Services, and I'm the assistant.
I'm going to spin you around. Oh, first. Hello, sorry, I'm being made fun of. I'm Ellen, and I'm the box office manager. So I'm new to this Fringe. I started 4 weeks ago, but some of you might have met me last year because I was the assistant last year.
Sorry. Hello, everybody. My name's Amy. I'm the managing director of Brighton Fringe. I manage everybody literally in this that you're about to meet today. I oversee the strategy, the planning, direction of which the Fringe is going in, also looking at the finances, and I work closely with the Board of Trustees. So I probably won't have that much to do with you on a day-to-day basis because Sarah and Megan and soon to be Laura, who's joining us as well in Artists and Venue Services team, will be able to answer your question. But just to say, my door is always open should you want to contact me.
Hello there, I'm Vicky and I'm the Development Manager at Brighton Fringe. So I'm responsible for all of the sponsorship and the advertising here at the Fringe. So I'm not sure whether you'll have sort of some direct contact with me, but if you know anybody with lots of money who would like to sponsor the Fringe, then please put them in touch with me. Thank you.
Such a great class. Hi everyone, I'm Hannah. I'm the Finance and Office Administrator. So I do a lot of bookkeeping and buying the milk and then supporting everyone in general. And Merry Christmas and thank you to everybody who's joining this. You're going to have a great time. I'll hand back to Sarah and Megan.
Thank you. Hope that didn't make anyone too troubled. The point of that section, brief as it was, is to show you that that is pretty much the entire Brighton Fringe team. We are very, very small. We are very, very friendly. And if you email us or contact us by telephone, it will just be one of us who answers that call or that email. We like to form relationships with our artists and our venues. And we're very happy just, pick up the phone and talk to us rather than sit there and worry that you've got a question and you don't know how to deal with. It's just going to be us, and you're always welcome to give us a call. There are 3 other very special people on this call today, and they're joining us via Zoom as well. They are 3 of our very favourite Fringe artists, and they're joining us excitingly from all over the world. I will ask them to introduce themselves. We've got Selena, would you like to start?
Go on then.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Selena. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a solo performer, creative person. I do musical comedy, cabaret, burlesque theatre shenanigans. I am currently coming to you from Liverpool. Ooh.
Ooh.
It may also be worth mentioning that I used to work for Brighton Fringe before I ever did my very first Brighton Fringe show as a creative, so I have some knowledge of that side of things as well.
Excellent, thank you. Next up, we've got Mustafa.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Mustafa Algiyadi. I'm a stand-up comedian based in Munich, Germany. And the first time I performed actually overall in the UK was at the Brighton Fringe 2023, and I had really a wonderful and amazing run, and then I came back also last year, and I'm very excited to be here and maybe share some of my prior experience as well with you with the Brighton Fringe.
Fantastic, thanks Mustafa. We didn't even pay him to say that. Aiden.
Hello, so I'm Aiden. I'm based in Brighton, and I've been doing Brighton Fringe for the last, I think it was 2019 was my first one, I think. So yeah, and I'm currently on holiday, so yeah.
Where are you on holiday, Aiden? You're not just on holiday.
I'm in America, so yeah, I'm in
Not
Vegas.
even just in America. Aiden is in Las Vegas. He's joining us from Las Vegas. We're very grateful to you for giving up some time from sunny Las Vegas to spend it with us. Just to follow on from Selena's point, I'm also an ex-Brighton Fringe performer, so I do have that perspective as well. And I feel like I form firmly into the camp of having one of those creative, non-spreadsheet type brains. So I'm always very sympathetic whenever I'm telling people to fill in forms. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. So very quick overview of the Fringe itself. It is an open access festival. That means that absolutely anybody can take part, as long as they can find a venue and they can pay the registration fee. Even that we're happy to help with. We've got, I think, 29 bursaries available on the website at the moment. We also have an affordable payment plan. So if you want to talk to us about that in any more detail, just drop us a line. The registration fees are worked out according to the capacity of your venue and the number of performances that you're doing. We can send all of you more information about that if you would like it, but it's also, excuse me, on our website. But yeah, if you are confused in any way about how that's worked out, just drop us a line. Megan and I can also support you with help in finding a venue, especially as, like Mustafa, if you're not local to Brighton, that we know can be a bit of a stumbling block. It can be, quite tricky to know where the best places are or what will work particularly well for your type of show. We are here, that's a big part of our job. If you can give us the information about what you're looking for, what kind of capacity it is, what type of show it is, what type of tech you need, we will try and help you and support you as much as we possibly can with that side of it. Really, what I've written down here is we are very small and our job is to help you have the best and most enjoyable Fringe that you possibly can. This year's Fringe is going to take place for 4 weeks between May the 2nd and June the 1st. Last year we had 780 different events. The year before I think we had 860. And just a handful of those were by the beautiful panel members who are joining us today. So I'm going to start by asking them some questions that I've sent them in advance to ask them to share some pearls of wisdom with you. But as I've said, if you do have more questions as the session goes on, please just type them into the chat. So can I start maybe with you, Aiden, and ask what advice would you give to somebody performing at Fringe for the first time, or what do you wish that you had known before your first Brighton Fringe experience?
For me, I think it's all about just getting involved and embracing the community spirit of Fringe. In hindsight, I wouldn't do it to make money. I think every year I make less of a loss each year, but it's more about just meeting people, networking, and just building that community. My biggest advice to anybody would be to get out there flyering. If you don't want to pay for flyers, if you don't want the environmental impact, get a board with a QR code on, that kind of thing. But being out there on the street, chatting, engaging with the public, and you meet other performers. It's that kind of on the street level vibe where you're really kind of building. That's where it's exciting and that's where it's the most fun, I think, for me, because every year I go out, I'll be out there flying, I'll be out in costume. If anyone's frightened of flying, if anyone doesn't want to go out and engage with the public, just buddy up with somebody. I'm always around. You'll see me about, come and grab me, and you really get that vibe. You get to communicate and engage with the public at that level. I think that's the best part of it.
That's great, thank you, Aiden. And yeah, I would just say Aiden does he's an amazing drag performer and does his flying in full drag, and it is a wonderful opportunity to promote the show that way. I think people are more willing to speak to you in that perspective, aren't they? And we will have we have busking spots we provide right throughout the city. So if you're not sure about which bits are the best places to sort of stand or fly or talk to people, we can provide you with a map about where all of those pre-planned busking sites are, where people are expecting to be flyered, or where the best sort of footfall is. Selena, also, is there anything?
If they're not available to see your show, they might just follow you on social media. They might come and see other things.
Yeah,
you make connections, and then you can also recommend other artists. You're recommending the Fringe. You're being a face of the Fringe and making it known that it happens every year and that it is a fantastic month.
I think that point about collaboration with other artists is, maybe we'll come back to that, because I think that's a really important element of Fringe and how to make it an enjoyable and less lonely experience. Certainly, perhaps from your perspective, Mustafa, we'll come on to you in just a minute, coming as a solo performer from another country who's not local to Brighton. If we could touch on that in just a moment, that would be really interesting, I think. Sorry.
Question from
Oh, yes.
Scarlett.
Do we need to book the busking slots in advance? No, you don't. It is just wander around the city and see what's available. If they look like they're really busy and it would be helpful to do so, just let us know and we can put something in place. But no, you don't need to pre-book them. Selena, can I ask you the same question? If there's any advice that you give to somebody performing at Fringe for the first time?
Yeah.
What do you wish
First
to
of
know?
all, I would completely agree with everything Aiden said. I think that's great advice. And one of the best things about any Fringe is the community of artists who do it. And it can be kind of lonely. I obviously have experience as a soloist, but I am also part of a collective. My favorite thing about working as part of a collective is being able to seek comfort and advice and just good vibes from my group. And as a soloist, I have felt best when I've reached out to people. I know there's a Facebook group, isn't there, for Brighton Fringe participants. So you might be able to help other people. They might be able to help you. I know Brighton Fringe run networking events, and I've found it such a great experience to just show up, have a little coffee, hang out with people. And it is much, much less lonely of an experience when you do that. And along the same lines, not being afraid to ask for help. It's quite a lot to do a Fringe show, especially if you're doing it on your own. But the more you ask for help, the more you'll realise that there's helpers all around and people are happy to chip in and you might be able to offer something in return. And then I will say finally, along the lines of asking for help, the Brighton Fringe staff are fantastic people with so much useful knowledge. And you guys are going to hate me because I know that you're a very small team right now, but ask the Brighton Fringe team for advice if you're unsure of anything.
Absolutely.
All sorts of stuff, box office tips, marketing help, all sorts of advice. They are just the best. And they're there for you. You might as well pay the registration fee. You might as well, get your money's worth.
Exactly that. Yeah. Thanks. Mustafa, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so definitely agree with Selena and Aiden, and I think it's quite important to have maybe the right mindset to come to the Fringe and what you are trying to get out of it. And I think what Aiden said about not trying to make money, I mean, it's just about what is the actual goal. And I think what was really nice for me to have, and probably that developed throughout the month, I wasn't aware of it at the beginning, was that I used it as a boot camp. So basically, it is a possibility to try to get a glimpse into the industry, how to do things, what I need to do when I do actually flyering, how to approach people, the kind of things that I need to say to sell my show, to whom I should be speaking to ask for help, how to deal with venues, etc. There are so many things that one can deal with. And I think if one comes with this mindset in the sense of, I am open to learn, there's so much there, and I'm just trying to expand my horizons, it could be extremely, extremely rewarding and enriching. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Just before we move on, we've got a couple more questions in the chat there. Someone's asked about flyering. You're absolutely correct. But the council do try their best to make it as complicated as possible. For that reason, we have a whole page about flyering on our website. The way that it works is there are certain places within the city where it's absolutely fine to flyer. There is then a zone where we are only allowed to flyer within certain hours and with a license. And then outside of that zone, it's a free-for-all. It's like the Wild West. You can do whatever you like. If you need a license for those areas outside of the free area, we can provide those in the Artist Hub. So during Fringe, Artist Services, me, Megan, and soon to be Laura, have an office outside of our normal office, somewhere very public. We are in talks at the moment about where that will be, but we will obviously let you know. And one of our main jobs is to welcome artists, make sure you've got your artist passes, and make sure that you understand about where you can flyer, the best places to flyer, and whether or not you need a license. So I will make sure that when we email all the participants afterwards, we include a link to all that information about flyering. But if anything changes, if the council change their minds, we will keep that web page updated and we will tell you more about it as time goes on as well. There's another question there.
Briefly about the flyering thing. The main little flying route that we're allowed to, the more people that fly there, the more of a buzz it is, rather than being spread out. So it's really nice to be there. But also, if you've got a placard with your show poster on and a QR code for people to scan, you can go anywhere you like. You could literally carry that around all month. and get people to
That's a
scan it.
really good point. And I guess the other thing as well is following on from that idea about collaborating with other artists and forming those relationships is finding other artists who are doing shows that might have a similar audience to your audience and discussing opportunities to maybe do exit flyering at each other's shows or leaving flyers on seats before shows. There are definitely ways around it, and we are more than happy to suggest those or have those conversations with you. There's one more question in the chat. Somebody's asking something very specific about a mistake in Eventatron. Please email us after that and we will be able to advise you, and we'll find the best person to address that for you. It will either be us or if it's not, we will find out who it is and what the exact problem is.
Could you just tell me what your address is?
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's takepart@brightonfringe.org.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, panel. Right, moving on. What things do you think artists need to consider before they arrive? Mustafa, I'm going to start with you on this one because obviously you're not local to Brighton. So how should people be planning their time between now and May? And is it different, do you think, for someone, an international performer than maybe someone who's local?
I guess it would be different because one doesn't know somehow the places, the venues, etc. So that's where I think the Brighton Fringe team and your availability and all your advice that you are giving, I think people, and as well I benefited so much from that when it comes in handy in terms of what the things that one needs to look at before coming in. And there's so much to do, right? So you can always like spend more time on doing a better copy for the website. You can spend more time on making the posters look nicer, the flyers look nicer. And I think it's quite important to be realistic about your timeline somehow, and what is somehow the amount of effort that is available to you and the time that you can dedicate to that. And then just stick to it, right? To say that, okay, this seems to be like a good enough of a copy that I can use, and now I need maybe to dedicate my resources into the next thing. So it's a bit of like a classical project management somehow approach to the situation. You have many things. You cannot do everything to the absolute best that it could be done. And at some point, one needs to be somehow realistic about it and say, okay, this is okay, and now I can move on. And then for me personally was somehow that all the support from the team that I was getting, asking, is this all right about the time? How was the plan and everything? And I think there was a perfect guidance that made it very, very smooth.
So glad we invited these people to be on the
know.
panel, aren't you? They've been so lovely about us. Selena, is there anything that you would add from maybe a more local perspective?
I think that was such a fantastic answer. I barely have anything to add. I was just going to say, yeah, making a timeline, because it feels quite far away, but it will creep up on you, this festival.
That's very true, yeah.
Yeah, and it can feel like there's a lot to do and you have to do it the best and it has to all be perfect, but I completely agree. It's totally not possible. So you need to prioritize what's important to you. And especially if you're applying for things like bursaries or awards, make a note of those deadlines, keep them in a very visible place, especially if you're like me and it's out of sight, out of mind. Keep them on a post-it note right in front of you all the time.
Excellent, thank you, Selena. Aiden, anything from you?
Well, from me, as usual, it's going to be the whole community push, the networking. Join the Facebook groups. I have a WhatsApp group that anyone's welcome to join, and just kind of make friends before you even get there. So swap ideas, and you know, I mean, you can arrange little spots in other people's shows. I offer spots in my shows. It's like you can do a lot of groundwork before it even starts, and kind of pre-plan who you're gonna kind of go flying with or do stuff with and things like that. So do a lot of networking online before you even get there. There's hashtags to follow, there's Facebook groups, there's WhatsApp groups. So yeah.
That's right. Aiden, are you happy for us to share the details of your WhatsApp group?
You can stick my number, like you give my mobile number to anyone, and all they have to do is just message me, and I will just add them to the WhatsApp group. And
wonderful, yeah. Thank you. I'll do that as an email to all the participants on this group afterwards. Aiden is the most wonderful, supportive, and very experienced fringe performer. So I'm not in the WhatsApp group, but I can imagine it's quite a lot of fun.
Honestly,
Okay,
you don't want to be because it would be
it all just
overload for you.
being mean about the Fringe team.
Too helpful. No, God, no, not at all. Not at all.
Asked us to fill in another form.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, panel. One more question for you. How do you know when you're ready? And do you ever suffer with imposter syndrome? Aiden, let's start again with you.
I mean, I hid behind, I still do actually to some degree, charity fundraising. If you feel like you're not ready or you feel you've got imposter syndrome, just do a charity fundraiser. Because it's like a get out of jail free. No one can criticise you if you're raising money for charity. I think we all do to some extent, but we're all creative people, and it's about just sharing that creativity like with people and with the world. You might get one person at your show, you might get 100. You know, one person will absolutely hate it, someone else will absolutely love it. You're not going to please everyone. So at some point you just have to think, you know what, I'm putting it out there. If you don't like it, you don't like it, it's fine. But there's a lot of joy in sharing what you've created. I think if you create stuff and you don't share it with the world, it's like, that's a shame. So I think just put yourself out there. You know, some people will you know, say horrible things. Well, screw them. You know what I mean? They're not the ones in the arena, so bugger them. Like, just put yourself out there. And afterwards, you'll love the fact that you did.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point to make that Brighton Fringe, we have 11 genres, I think, of different types of show. I can't remember what they are, but the idea that there is something for everyone and that everybody is welcome to perform. The Brighton Fringe audience generally expect, they don't always expect a polished performance, but they do know when they walk through the door that it could be anything. And they are a very forgiving and friendly and warm audience on the whole, I would say. And we really try to cultivate a very safe space for you to be experimental and creative and to feel supported to do that. We are not always expecting you to come with like a 5-star, really polished show. If you're doing that, you're probably better off at the festival, to be honest. This is where people start out and maybe they use it as a springboard to Edinburgh. Maybe it's a work in progress and they're trying new material. Maybe you have got a polished show because you bought it last year and you want to see how it's progressed. But just to build on what you were saying about that network, I think that extends to the audience as well. Brighton Fringe is well known for being experimental, and we really trust
Brighton itself
to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The public of Brighton, they're so lovely. We are a unique bubble, and we accept, and that's the thing. So if you're not polished, it doesn't matter. People are so lovely in Brighton, honestly. And I've had some ropey shows. I mess up all the time, but people, it just doesn't matter. You just crack on and it's fun. So enjoy yourself.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we're trying to push with this particular Fringe Academy about being brand new to Fringes. We really do want it to be an enjoyable experience. Yeah. Think about what your reason for doing Fringe is, absolutely. But we really want whatever it is to be successful for you. And the more we understand about that, the better position we're in to be able to help you achieve it. Selena, you've won hundreds of awards now. How do you feel? Did you ever feel at the beginning, like at what point did you think this show is ready, or I'm ready to give Fringe a go for the very first time?
Well, first of all, I will dispute the claim that I've won hundreds of awards, please. Something very British in me that's like, please, no, don't look at me. I definitely struggle with imposter syndrome at times. I think most people in the arts do. And before doing my first Brighton Fringe, I was really freaking out. And I had wanted to do it for a couple of years as well. It took me a while to register my show. And it took someone telling me, like, you don't have to have the show ready and written, just register and then figure it out later for me to commit to it. And I'm really, really glad I did. I think it's so important to spread the message that no one feels ready unless, you know, you've done it before. But the first time, no one feels ready. I mean, it might even be the case that you've done 5 of them and you still don't feel ready to do the next one, but you just have to take the plunge, and then it is so worth it. And I completely agree about Brighton being a really accepting, wonderful place. The audiences are so nice. And this is the beauty of an open access arts festival. If you feel a bit imposter syndrome-y and you're not sure how you're going to be received, just remember that it is an open access festival. Literally anyone can sign up for it, and the audience know that. So they're not expecting any standard from you. They're not expecting a certain level. I don't know if that's comforting to hear, but
I think that's reflected in I'm just thinking about the venues that we've got signed up at the moment. We've got 107 venues, I think, listed on Eventatron at the moment. And they range hugely from, big tops, outdoor venues, and big professional theatres, right down. I think we've got 2 people who've registered their living rooms with like a capacity of 10 people. So there really is something for everybody. And obviously, if you're doing a huge 500-seater show, what people are going to expect is going to be different than if you're just doing something in someone's living room for the first time. But
absolutely.
Again, that's why choosing your venue is so important. And that's why we're keen to try and help you find the right venue for you. It's much better to sell out a 15-seater venue than to book a 100-seater venue and only have 15 people turn up. So those are the kind of things to maybe think about in advance when you're doing your event listing as well.
Yeah, I'd say a huge part of this process is finding your target audience, the people who will love your show. And it is so valuable. You cannot skip past it, because that will bring people in who make you feel good about doing what you do.
Thanks, Selena. Mustafa, before I can see there are a couple of questions in the chat. I will come to those in just a moment. Mustafa, before we move on, you did your first Fringe with us in 2023, I think.
Yeah.
What made you do it?
What made me do it? It was an advice from a friend telling me that it's actually I should go there and I should do it. But then I looked through somehow the previous events as well, and it seemed to be, as people here are saying, it is just a lovely and a nice environment to do it there, a little bit more forgiving, rather than feeling that you could be maybe Edinburgh would be a little bit too much for a first time. Yeah, and it was just exciting and nice. And I think getting to the point of if one knows that they are ready or not, one can always somehow try to put themselves out there and reducing the risk by saying it's a work in progress, right? And this is as well extremely valuable in the sense of giving you still almost like the whole experience, right? Of understanding what is important, and there is always a next year where you can somehow remove this work in progress part, and then do it fully. So
I think that's really great advice. And just because you've touched on Edinburgh there, I think it's worth talking about that a little bit. So Edinburgh Fringe is obviously the biggest fringe in the world. It's the one that everybody's heard of, and for a lot of artists, I think, whether you've been or not, it's the dream for a lot of people. That's where they're working towards. I think it's important to say that although we are a fringe, and although having just seen the size of the staffing, it's almost unbelievable, but we are the 3rd largest fringe in the world. We are not like Edinburgh Fringe. It is, when you go to Edinburgh Fringe, if you've been before either as a punter or as a performer, you will have noticed that the majority of artists are doing a full run the whole month. They're out there from the crack of dawn flyering and then going straight into a show and then flyering some more. It's a really, really intense experience. Brighton Fringe try to send up a couple of staff each August, and we tend to go towards the end of the festival. And by that point, the people that we're talking to are like rocking in a corner, really, really exhausted by the experience, unless they've planned it really carefully or have got support or gone with other people. And Brighton Fringe is quite different. We generally have artists perform for just a few days, or maybe a weekend or a couple of weekends, or sometimes they will come and do a weekend, and if it's gone well, then they'll maybe book in some more dates later down the line if they're still available. And the idea is exactly that. It's a platform to try out new things, meet new people, and then think about what you want to do next. And we are here all year round to help you to think about what that looks like as well. We're really keen to try and help with career progression and career development. So again, that idea of why are you doing Fringe? What do you want to get out from it? And how can we help you to achieve that? Thank you. Before we move on to the next question, there's another message here in our chat that says, would you say that flyering is the most effective method of marketing for your show? So what does that say? Was there a method you saw the most returns on? We touched on flyering already,
Sure,
but
pick on that one.
yeah, please do.
Basically, I have different discount codes depending on, so I do door-to-door leafleting with a discount code, I do flyering with a discount code, and social media discount code. The one that sees the most sales, in my perspective, is social media advertising, but the one that is the most rewarding is flyering on the street. So I just think that gives the most long term. You get more kind of social media follows, you get to engage more. But as for actual ticket sales, social media advertising has been so far with my experience because I use different kind of codes. So door-to-door leafleting is kind of fun, but it doesn't bring that much, in my opinion.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Selena, Mustafa, anything to add to that?
I mean, I think what really worked very nicely for me was like the word of mouth. So just making sure that you give somehow the audiences some time after the show that you are available, because it happens at times that of course you're done and people are leaving, and then you are as well doing your own thing, and then you need to leave. But I think it makes a difference if you are just available there for a couple of minutes after the show. There would be a few people who would like to just say one word or the other and speak to you and ask you a couple of things. And usually those are the people who would recommend your show further down the line to other people. And I think in my case, at least in 23, that was where most of the people came from, which is like someone came and then they recommended it and then it went out. But I made sure that after every show I was available just to speak to the people who wanted to talk to me.
And I was there for at least, I think I've seen your show twice in 2 different years, and I've seen you do that. And people love it. They love the opportunity to talk to somebody after a show. So yes, I would fully agree with that. Giving people the opportunity to feel like it's a really personal experience. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's great advice. Selena, anything to add on marketing?
Yes, I'd echo what you've both just said. I think the really core part there is the face-to-face personal connection with people. I think it's really important to manage your time well with marketing, with everything, all the jobs that you have to do when putting on a fringe show. And it can be quite exhausting. So you want to work on ways that use your energy most wisely. As a neurodivergent person, I really struggle with face-to-face flyering. So I tend to do methods which I find alleviate the pressure a little bit. So hanging around after a show, I'm already there. I'm already having a drink. Come talk to me. It is so much easier than just approaching people, in my opinion. And exit flyering shows, I'm big on the target demographics, big on finding people with similar shows to you, people with similar audiences to you. And then once they're exiting that show, if you give them a flyer and you're like, oh, if you liked what you just watched, you might like this as well. It's also whatever. It's also music. It's also comedy. It's also burlesque. And then if you just sort of linger around, people will probably come chat to you. And I have found those methods of lingering, very sort of targeted lingering, to be my best marketing techniques. I've got to say as well, Aiden, I really like your sort of, what do you call it? It's like statistics, the way that you've worked out with your promo codes, which ones work best. I feel like I need to do something like that. Very methodical.
Not just a pretty face. That's fantastic advice. Thank you. Methodical, what was it? Targeted lingering. I think we can definitely promote that. I will say that marketing is a whole beast all of its own, and we could easily do a whole Fringe Academy on it. In fact, we have. This is a great opportunity to remind you that all the Fringe Academies that we have ever done are available on our website. I will send you a link. We're recording this one as well. That will be uploaded to that same page as well. You can watch them all for free. There was a marketing, I think it's How to Market Your Show, Fringe Academy last year or the year before. And I believe Selena Mersey said that it changed her life. So because there is some really, really great advice in there.
The goals.
The goal. It's not I'm not a marketing professional. I think I do know a reasonable amount about it from a fringe perspective, from having done this job for a reasonable length of time, but there are some experts who are on that particular panel talking from a much more expert perspective. But we will try and do another marketing specific Fringe Academy next year. I think there's key things around marketing are exactly what you were saying, Selena, trying to think about who your audience are in advance, rather than trying to flyer everybody or market your show to everybody. Who are actually the people who are going to want to come to your show, who are going to enjoy your show, and where are you going to find them? It's probably going to help you conserve time, energy, and crucially money if you're going to be printing flyers. And it will help you build some of those relationships if you're looking to collaborating with other artists as well. And I think also just looking at previous resources and talking to people and planning. Everybody's talked about planning that time. You can't just expect to turn up to a sellout show. Even if you're an international performer and it's more difficult, this is the time now to think about how you do that marketing. What is it going to look like? What do you need to invest in it? Budgeting is really important. Yes, we know it's expensive to put on a show, but there are hidden costs as well. Hidden costs in the marketing, hidden costs in if you're coming down, train fares, potentially accommodation, food while you're here, printing costs, all of those different things. Think about all of that stuff in advance and think about how that might affect your marketing once you get here as well. So I hope that answers your question, but I will send links. Yes.
Slip it again, I'm afraid.
Please do.
One thing about flyering, buddy up with somebody who has a similar show and don't do a single-sided flyer with a blank side. That drives me mad. Take a side each, split the costs, and then flyer that way, rather than have a one-sided flyer. So buddy up with someone and take a side each.
Yeah, lovely advice. Brilliant. Yes, so I will make sure that I send a link to the Marketing Fringe Academy. But again, if you've got more specific questions, feel free to give us a call or drop us an email. We're always here and happy to help. And if we don't know the answers, we will find somebody who does. My last question is sort of related to that. I've written down, how do you get, because as I said, we had 780 shows last year. We've got nearly 350 already now. And we're still quite a way off from Fringe. It's our 20th anniversary this year, so we're expecting it to be quite a big one. In all that sea of other events, how do you get your event to stand out? How do you get reviewers to come to your shows, or the audience members that you want to get to your shows? And how do you stand out amongst all those other shows? I start with Aiden, go on.
Okay, so reviewers is this is my controversial bit because I don't. There's a couple of layers to it. First of all, the first time I joined Fringe and you answer the questions with the whole, do you want tickets given to reviewers? Do you want tickets given to whoever? And you tick the yes box and you get all excited, and then someone books, like, you think, oh my God, there's a reviewer has taken a free ticket. Like, this is exciting. In my experience, they never turn up. Right. So it's a wasted seat. One did turn up at one show and then just didn't write anything anyway. And I kind of think, you know what? Well, no. So I don't tick that box anymore. And the whole concept of reviews, to some people, it's very important but reading a poster, if you see it, I mean, it's one person's opinion. I think reviewers are a little bit more kind of, it's to be more important than they actually are. Look at any information, a 5-star review from Mr. Gonzalez in bed 8, and that's you know what I mean. Review your own show. Your opinion's worth more than someone else's. I don't buy into the whole review process personally, so I just think it's one person's opinion. If you believe in your show, if you believe in your work, you put it out there. Either it will speak to someone or it won't. If you want to stand out, engage with the public on a personal level, whether that's face-to-face flyering, whether that's after-show chatting, whether that's a personalized video on social media. Just engage with people on a one-to-one basis. But one person's opinion saying whether your show was worth it or not, More often than not, I mean, the prerequisite for writing a review for some publications is that you've had your own show. I could go and write a review. I could do it for my friend. Like, how genuine is it? Is it an authentic thing? No. So yeah, I'm being controversial, but no, I'm not a big believer in reviews. Give yourself a 5-star rating and believe in yourself.
I love that answer, and I love it for several reasons. But I think what you said right at the beginning is really important. For some people, reviewers are important, and for others, it's just not where you're at right now. It is not something that you need to be worrying about. You're absolutely right. They don't always pay for those seats, and even if they do, they don't always write a review. If Brighton Fringe sometimes struggles, I'll be honest, to get the reviewers down. You're not going to get someone from The Guardian or the BBC to come and watch your show. It's entirely up to you. If you want help in trying to get reviewers to come to those shows, we can help you with press releases, we can help you with press lists and contacts, but it isn't for everybody, and it absolutely is not something to concern yourself with if you're not at that point where reviews are important. I think Aiden's advice is absolutely spot on, to be honest, controversial or not. I completely back you. Selena, anything that you would like to add to that?
Yeah.
How did you get your show to stand out? Because you brought 2 shows to the last Fringe, is that right?
I can't even remember now.
You brought Mustafa and Bisexual, I believe.
Yes, those are my 2 shows.
Did you not do the best last year? I feel like you did.
Oh, do you know what? I don't even know.
Well, forget my question as to whether it was different for each of those then. Just from a general perspective, I was just thinking in terms of an established show and a brand new show, was it going to be different? But if you can't remember, let's go from a blank sheet. How do you get
Well, I actually think it's a really good place to start from, sort of doing that introspection and interrogating, do I actually want a review? And if so, why? That's a really important place to start from. Don't just try and get reviewers in because it's the done thing, because you might end up with a review and go, actually, I hate this and I didn't want it in the first place, and I wish I'd thought about that. So start there. If you do decide that you want reviews for whatever reason, I quite like the perspective that a reviewer's job is to recommend your show for the right sort of audience and say, hey, if you like X, this show has X, go see it. In which case, if we're looking at reviews like that, I think it's really important to find the right reviewer, to find the right publication. A lot of reviewers local to Brighton are just really lovely people. A lot of reviewers are artists themselves, and this is just something that they also do. So don't necessarily approach them with the view that they are big, scary, horrible people. I think it's really beneficial to build up a relationship prior to the festival. Maybe email them, let them know that you're thinking about doing a show when the festival comes around, let them know that you've read a bit of their work before. Hopefully you've researched the right sort of person and say, hey, I see that you write about cabaret or drag or children's shows or whatever. I'm doing something like that, and I think you specifically would like to come see it. I think if you don't reach out to people and you have ticked the little box that says, yes, issue tickets to reviewers, please, it's a bit of a gamble as to whether anyone's going to come. However, if you reach out personally, it's going to increase the chances that someone will pay attention to you. In terms of standing out amongst the sea of shows, luckily Brighton Fringe, despite it being the 3rd biggest fringe festival in the world, you know, it's not too bad when you consider how many genres there are.
That's what's so ridiculous about that tagline of being the 3rd largest in the world. That's why I brought it up, is because it's unbelievable, because it's quite small.
Yeah. Really. And when you consider the gaps between Edinburgh, the largest, and Adelaide, the 2nd largest, and Brighton, it's really striking how big those gaps are in terms of how many events are taking place. So although it's got that title, it doesn't have to be that intimidating. And when you split all those events between the genres, you're not necessarily, you know, competing with like 1,000 other events. To stand out, again, it's all about the target demographic. Think about who exactly is going to like your show. Don't try to appeal from Barry the Builder. If Barry the Builder is going to hate your show, I mean, who knows, he might love it, but don't waste your time and energy on trying to get the builder demographic. Keywords are really important. when you're advertising online. And I'm going to say a really strong, striking image is always super beneficial. I always have shows stay in my mind that have got a really great, colourful, powerful image. It's just going to catch people's eye, and the more they see it, the more they'll go, oh, that's that show I saw. Yeah, yeah.
Great advice. Thank you. Mustafa, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, with regards to the reviews, what I did personally, I just contacted, I think, everyone in the list that you have given me, and at the end, I got 2 reviewers coming in the last 3 days of the Fringe. So the point about getting a reviewer that would recommend the show somehow to people that didn't play
Sure.
big role. But for me personally, it was quite important because I needed somehow, I needed to have, as I said, it was the first time that I performed in the UK, and I'm performing English normally, like in mainland Europe, and there were like few question marks about where I stand somehow from stand-up comedy in general, and how does it compare to the industry somehow in the UK. And I think that was personally for me needed to do it, and I think it worked out nicely. So I was happy that that came out as well, and that was like one of the measures of success, that I wanted to have at least one professional reviewer coming to the show. In terms of standing out, obviously the cliche thing, it needs to be a good show, but then I think how you get people to come in and connect with you. One part that it's the flyering, and when I was flyering, I remember I was speaking to people. So I tried it a couple of times, couple of days, just giving people passing by, and then I stopped doing that, and then I started targeting areas where people are actually seated. And then I had the possibility to interrupt their lunch and to talk to them, and then that worked nicely. So many people came as a result of that. And then, of course, this part, as I mentioned earlier, speaking to people after the show, that they use it as you use it as a word of mouth, really worked out quite nicely. And then, I mean, you remember probably, Sarah, how many times I was bothering you with changing the copy of the
But
website.
you're always very polite, so that's fine.
Yeah.
And you brought your laptop.
I was getting somehow the reactions from people to how they were reading my flyer, or what they were telling me as a feedback to the show, and what stuck in their mind. And I was taking that as an input to change the copy that I had on the website. And I mean, I think we changed it, Sarah, like, I don't know, a million times, I guess. And I was like modifying that as well towards the end to something that, okay, this is what people actually see when I perform. So this is how the copy is gonna look like, right? So
those reviews, I will say, were lovely because you had taken the time to talk to those people after the show. I will just add, because I don't think we've said it yet, that this year, partly because it's our 20th anniversary, we are going to be having a brochure for the first time in 4 or 5 years, a proper brochure with big distribution. So as much as, yes, please do add in reviews and welcome to edit what's on the website, the print deadline for the brochure is February the 10th. That can't be changed. So if you would like your show to be in the printed brochure with a distribution of 30,000 across the city, please do make sure that you have finalised your event by February the 10th. That is going to be a wonderful bit of advertising for you. It's included in the registration fee. You don't have to pay extra for it. It helps give a really beautiful sort of overall bit of excitement of all the exciting, wonderful, different types of shows that are going to be happening in the city. If you haven't been in Brighton during May before, we are not the only festival going on. There is also Brighton Festival, there's the Great Escape, there's the Artists Open Houses. I'm mentioning those because of what you said, Mustafa, about bothering people during their lunches rather than just standing on the street flyering. People are kind of expecting, they're in that sort of creative, excited bubble. There's a lot going on in May. And so I think people are generally quite open and quite happy about being spoken to like that. And because of that as well, I think a lot of local businesses are quite open as well to having flyers up in the window and that kind of thing too. So don't be afraid to make friends with anyone who's got a window out onto a street. thank you all so much. There's one more question in the chat here about, oh, no, there's two more questions. One just popped in. Any opportunities for interviews on local radio, etc.? Yes, there are. In Eventatron, which is the online system that we need you to complete a form in order to register your show. There is a tab called, I believe, Press and Media, and in there are two separate lists. One is a press list and one is an arts industry list. And we have lots of contacts in there. I would not necessarily recommend just doing a general mail out to all of those people, but to looking through that list and thinking about who are the people that are going to be most interested in coming to your show, exactly as you were saying, Selena. And there are some radio contacts in there. If it's something that you're specifically keen on doing, again, please get in touch with us directly and we'll be able to provide you a bit further on that. There's one more question here. It says, if you've already registered your event, can you still change the brochure copy? Yes, you absolutely can. As I said, we've got over 300 events registered already. You can edit your event online as many times as you want. We are now updating those changes on the website once a week on a rolling basis. So any changes you make in Eventatron will be pulled through to the website, usually on a Friday once a week. You can totally make changes that will, whatever you change now, up until February the 10th is what will be printed in the brochure. Obviously, anything after February the 10th, you can still change what will appear online, but after February the 10th, that's it, what will appear in the brochure. Even if you have finalised your event, please go back into your Eventatron record, double check what you have written in your event listing. We proof constantly, but we're mainly proofing from the perspective of making sure that dates are correct, that times are correct, that licensing information is correct. Please check that the image is what you want and that the text says what you want it to say, and that little box of the preview text is what will appear in the brochure. It's not, I should have brought one in, an example. It's not huge what you get in the brochure, it's a tiny little square. So make sure that that bit of preview text says what you want it to say about a show to try and get it to stand out. We are at 6:25, which is amazing. I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everybody who's joined the call this evening. We really appreciate it. I hope you found it useful. Special huge thank you to Aiden, to Mustafa and to Selena. Lovely to see all of you. We hope that you'll be back in May, and we're very grateful for you to share your knowledge and your advice with everybody. I hope that overall, I hope that you have felt that it's an opportunity to see that we're not in any way frightening, and that Fringe is not a big scary thing. It's a really beautiful, joyful, enjoyable experience, and that we want to support you as much as possible. So we would really welcome you getting in touch. Once again, our email address, Megan and I share an inbox, it's takepart@brightonfringe.org. If you send an email to that address, it will be one of us who answers it. So you've already seen us, and you know we're not scary, and we will do our very best to answer as quickly as we can. If we don't answer, it's because the inbox is overflowing. Feel free to pester us, and we won't take offence at all. I want to very quickly just remind everybody that Brighton Fringe is closed over the Christmas period between Christmas Eve and January the 1st. But Megan and I are actually going to be on leave from next Friday until January the 6th. There won't be
anyone in our service principals to hear us.
So yes, save all your stuff until January the 6th.
So
you're welcome to contact anybody else, but as you've seen, they don't really know much about that, do they? But we've still got ages before the print deadline of February the 10th, and then we'll be here right through Fringe, and we're really excited to see you in May. Once more, that print deadline is February the 10th. Please make sure that you start your registrations in Eventatron. If you've got any more questions that we haven't been able to get around to, or you didn't want to discuss here, feel free to drop us a line. And yeah, just a massive thank you, a huge happy Christmas, and we really look forward to seeing you very soon. We will upload this video onto the website. Thank you for saying thank you. We will upload this onto the website in the next couple of days, and have a look for all the other Fringe Academies online, and I hope you find them useful. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, everyone.